Hello and welcome to Pods Like Us. I'm Martin Corbell, known to my friends as Marv, and this time I am speaking with Oreo Brewer, who has an interesting YouTube page with that name, and also he writes fan fiction, other fiction, and some really nice poetry that you can find on Wattpad under the name of Immortal Beloved. Hey mate, thanks for speaking with me today.
No problem.
So what was your inspiration then to do all of these different types of media, the video on YouTube and the poetry and the fan fiction and other fiction?
Well, poetry writing came first. That was in 2001.
Yep.
And then I just flew off with that because my high school crush inspired me to do all this writing. It was poetry, then my fanfic. And then as I got older, I branched out and tried YouTube. And that's been fun because there's really no massive commitment to it. It's just fun.
Yeah.
And I like helping people out at the same time.
Yeah, because the videos, I mean, a lot of the videos, like the ones I've seen of the unboxing, for instance, that sort of explains to people, if anybody's sort of interested and thinking, oh, I wonder if I should get that or not. Your videos are they explain what you get in these packages that people can get, like these big sets. And so people know what they're getting.
Yeah, that's why I like doing book reviews. Are so much fun because I've seen so many people do book reviews on YouTube and they just glaze over it. The worst one I ever saw was somebody had a brand new book that I was interested in.
Yep.
And all they did was turn it over, flip it around, showed off a few pages. And I'm like, go through the whole thing.
Yep.
So I go through the whole book, cover to cover, index first if it has one. That way you know what to expect. And I show you the pages. And it's fun because I've helped a good chunk of people choose between whether they were going to buy it or not. Somebody was actually looking for a book recently and they were on the fence about it. And they're like, oh, now I know what's in it and I don't really want this.
It's interesting you say that because at the beginning of last year, I had a guest on my show, Alan Cozen, who writes, and he's a critic and a podcaster as well. And we went into the subject of a book that he co-wrote with Adrian Sinclair about Paul McCartney. And I have this thing where I like, if I'm going to speak to somebody like that, like a creative, in a fortnight, for instance, I'm talking with Dylan Thoris, who does Atlas Obscura. So I've read the books before. Yeah. I've got his books as well. So I've read through, they're already in my collection. So but when I spoke to Alan Cozen, I read that McCartney book from beginning to end before chatting with him.
Nice.
But apparently that's not the way that people normally do these interviews. Apparently they sort of get little bits and pick up on those. It's strange. How can you have a good idea of the book if you don't read the whole thing from beginning to end?
It's stupid. That's why I don't like interviews mostly because some people, when they do an interview, it's always the same boring ass questions. They never go for a deep dive question. And it's not that hard. You said you read the whole book cover to cover, so you're burning with questions and whatnot.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I don't want to talk about that. Then why the hell did you agree to it? You don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Counterproductive.
Yeah, it's one of my longer episodes because of that, because we went down that rabbit hole of his book for so long, even though I got him on with the idea because he was a podcaster. So that way, that's how I got away with that one, was because I thought, well, I've got him as a podcaster, but I'm really intrigued by this, what I think he bought out a book that I thought was one of the best books I've ever read about Paul McCartney. So obviously I was enthused by that.
Yeah.
But also you're right about there's something else as well about when you do you've reviewed books, and when you look at these different things, you're given a different. It's not like a professional critic. You're giving a real everyman's sort of reaction to these things, and you're giving it in depth. There's no, there's none of this like pretense going on. You are being who you are and being completely honest and saying what you think about these things.
Yeah. And I've had people complain about that already. And I'm like, well, then why did you watch? Yeah. It's if you're going to sit there and bitch about it and be like, not expecting that, it's my review. I'm giving you an honest review on this book. I'm showing you what the jacket looks like, what the the hardcover of it looks like, if it has one, how I feel about it, if it's a good deal for a newcomer, if it's worth collecting, if you really wanted it, and so on and so forth. And some of them, they're not that good. Like the one thing that really pisses me off the most is cookbooks, because
Yeah.
they're fun, but most of them lack pictures.
Yeah.
And if you're a visualist and you have a hard time reading the words and then doing it into a final product, you need a picture of the final product so you know what it's going to look like when you're all said and done. So that's one of my main critiques, and I get so pissy about it sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, we've got cookbooks at home, and my other half, Louise, looks at those pictures because those pictures are supposed to show you what the food
Yeah,
looks like when you've done
exactly.
it.
Yeah,
It's, I mean, from a completely different side of that, you've got that really incredible Star Wars art book that you got recently that you've got a video of, and that's incredible. Those pictures are amazing.
yeah. I've covered so many Star Wars books, art books, encyclopedias, visual dictionaries, and the best one, and even the RPG books. Those are even more fun.
Yeah.
They have art scattered throughout, but I like the wildlife of Star Wars the most. That's one of my favorite ones that I covered.
Cool. And then what was the other one that watched the other day where you'd been shopping and you came back with a haul of stuff and you were sort of like showing what you'd come back with. I'm now trying to look back because I took notes on it now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love going to the library. I get so many good books from the library. I never pay for stuff. I never buy my own books unless I
Okay.
really want to. Because one, I'm saving a lot of money. And two, it's so cheap to go to the library and just reserve it
Yeah.
for free and get it from wherever and enjoy it for what it is.
Yes. I'm glad you've
Yeah.
said that. I'm very much somebody who pushes people going to libraries because I think they're an incredibly useful and helpful place.
They really are. Like I recently discovered, this was last year, I discovered a World Cat, which is the world catalog for all the global libraries connected
Okay.
worldwide.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fun. There's an app that you can download and you can search for whatever book you're looking for. And then you write down the title, or you copy the title, or you copy the OCLC number and give it to your library, and they'll ship it to your branch. And sometimes you might have to pay for the book or you get it for free. I've only ever had to pay for one book so far.
You've preempted me there. I was going to ask you how you get hold of the items.
Yeah, it's fun. I love because I use Marina at first in my state of Maryland,
Yep.
and it gives me access to 23 branches, which is really amazing.
Wow.
And then OCLC opens it up to where I have access to all the libraries throughout the US, Canada, UK, globally. But some of
Wow.
the ones that are international, they don't ship because it costs so much.
Yeah.
And that's a
Yeah.
shame because I'm like, I would love to see a library book from another country and see how they set it up and everything, because that's always fascinating to me.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was younger, trying to look for even music. You could go into a
Yeah.
library, and you can go and get something out of the library, like back in the day, cassettes or
Yeah.
CDs. You could
Yeah.
get those, and then you get a listen of those, and you'll be like, "Oh, I quite like that." And sometimes you might like something that much that you
You
might go
burn it.
out and well, yeah, yeah. Or you might go out and buy it yourself with real money.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I remember renting so many audiobooks back then, cassettes, CDs, and it was fun. And the one thing I learned recently was that the original rental limit for movies and games combined was 25.
Okay.
Now they've upped it to 50. And I'm like, that's a good challenge.
Wow.
And book rentals and CDs are all unlimited. There's no number to it. I've reserved so much that I actually had a whole bottom shelf dedicated to everything I reserved at one time because I had so much.
I have a storage unit that's full of media like books and CDs and all sorts of
Nice.
things. But I like the real physical of a book. I mean, I've got lots of
Yeah.
books at the side of me, hidden behind here that nobody can see. That's out of camera shot there and there. I've got bookcases, and I've got one of those that looks like an armoire that is actually open it up, and it's a bookcase. That's a
Oh,
bookcase as
wow.
well. I've got them all over the place.
Yeah, I've had to put a lot of my books in storage because I don't have room for it.
So, so what started you with writing then? What was that? What got you starting to write?
I started writing in fifth grade,
Yeah,
and my thought process wasn't quite coherent yet enough to do a whole full length story. I was influenced by everything that was popular in the 90s. So
yeah,
I wrote like Power Rangers or like whatever. And then my teacher was like, well, you need to explain this more. I don't know how.
yeah.
And she taught me how. And I just kind of grew from there. And I let it go for a long time. And then high school hit. And I absorbed so much stuff from watching TV.
Yeah.
And I was watching a lot of adult things back then. Like middle school, I was watching Homicide, like on the street and Law and Order,
Yes.
and ER too. I watched so much adult, and it stuck with me. And I get to high school, puberty, and then I'm just thrown into everything. And then I didn't pick up writing until 2001,
Yep.
and I just wrote down little poems and stuff that stuck out to me that I was in my feelings. I'm always in my feelings. And I just wrote down what I felt and went back and forth with it. And then I got interested in a girl. It didn't pan out,
Yep.
but she is my definitive inspiration for my poetry and my Star Wars fanfic and everything I've written as a result, just from her talking to me. Cause I was a shut in back then. Like I was super shy.
Yep.
I didn't really talk to a lot of people. I didn't know I was autistic until a few years ago. And then I look back at everything I did past. I'm like, yeah, definitely autistic.
Yeah.
And everything came together. And I was like, wow. And she was the catalyst because I didn't even realize this until I had to really sit down, piece everything together through introspection, retrospection, and also therapy too.
Yeah.
And yeah, if I hadn't met her, talked to her, and if I hadn't got hooked on Attack of the Clones, I
Yep.
wouldn't have really had as much writing as I have now or poetry.
So are you methodical then with your writing? Will you hone it, what you've written in both poetry and in your fictional writing, as in long form as well.
Yeah, my poetry, I always hone my talent as much as I can.
Yep.
My greatest trait and attribute in my writing is my detailing.
Yeah.
And I am a whore for details. I cannot stand the glaze over deal. I'll glaze over some things
Yep.
just to get ahead, but other stuff I will give full exposition and detailing. And then another thing I love doing is writing from a woman's perspective. That's so much fun.
Okay. Wow.
And I know women get mad at about that, like men can't write a woman's perspective. And like, it's really easy. It's much more fun than writing from a man's perspective because that's just so boring.
Yeah.
It's so much more creative and there's new avenues to play with in that. And most people don't get that. They're always afraid to try something different because they're so used to their box. They don't want to come outside the box like they should and evolve their style. Like I follow a lot of artists between all the social media platforms, and I like watching them evolve. It's subtle stuff. It'll either be how they do hair, how they do eyes, how they do a facial look, how they do a smile, hands, body, clothing, etc. Colors, especially colors. Oh my God, colors. And I've had the privilege of seeing so many artist friends of mine that I have supported just blind sport because I know they have the gift. I know they have the talent. And I've had the privilege of seeing them reach accolades they never thought. My one recent friend, Mr. Jones on Twitter, he got his first IDW cover with TMNT. And I was like, damn, dude.
Nice. Nice.
And I've followed him for years. And he's so good because he likes doing mashup art with 80s and 90s cartoons. And I love that. It's beautiful. I've seen Shane Molina, who's in Hawaii,
Yep.
and he did a collab effort with Star Wars Rebels years ago with,
Yep.
with 800 Pound Productions, Venomous, and a few others for the Rebels poster. I was like, dude, this is amazing. I've seen Super Shinobi on Instagram get his art print for Ghost in the Shell 2017 get handed out premiere night. And I'm like, dude, this is so good. And I root for them left and right every post. I'm like, dude, you're gonna make it someday. You're gonna get tapped for that project. And it's amazing. And one of the more popular ones, Boss Logic, I love his style.
Yeah.
His style is so iconic and it's fun. Seeing his poster on the side of a building in Japan for Across the Spider-Verse, that is crazy cool. It's so cool. And I continuously root for them because it's fun seeing them tackle the next project. And there are some of them that are under NDA, so they don't post as much. And I'll post up like, I know you're busy, you're under NDA, but I'm keeping the light on for you because I know you'll be back with whatever you can show. And they are so supportive of that. And they love that kind of feedback. And it's great. It's fun.
People like Boss Logic. I mean, I'm shocked that he isn't used by the studios to more of a degree, really, because his artwork in a lot of cases is actually better than the officially released artwork to my mind.
Yeah, you're right. And the reason I found out, because I brought this up to Venomous before he blocked me for whatever reason on Instagram. I don't know why. I was like, dude, you should work for Star Wars because his work is so good. And he said, I would, but no. And I was like, why? And then he brought up that Disney would want, it was the contract deals and money.
Yeah.
It was a thing of Disney would want 60 or 70% of the contract, and he would get 20 to 40% of the contract.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's a deal. And the other big thing I found out just from Jeff Carlisle,
Yep.
another respectable artist. I love his stuff. I have one of his things autographed actually. He had a project years ago before, contracts were hammered out and stuff for rights. And one of the projects he worked on, the studio kept his stuff. And it broke, it upset him because he didn't get to keep his stuff.
Yeah.
And I put it in my contract that I get my stuff so I don't lose it. And it's wild. Like, I even talked to Jerry Gaylord on Instagram now and then because he worked on X-Men 90s recently. And he also worked on Steelworks comic for DC that's Michael Dorn wrote. And when I saw the news about Bo being fired from X-Men 97, I messaged him right away. I was like, dude, is your job safe? Are you okay? Because I worry about that. I'm like, I don't want to see any artist friends get fired or let go like that. And he's like, yeah, I was shocked about Bo too. And I'm okay. I'm on another project. I'm like, all right, cool. Glad you're all right. Just looking out for you. And he's like, I appreciate that. Like, it's all right.
I was shocked about that with the X-Men 97 because I thought that's not good timing for any of that to happen.
For real. Like, it was weird. I was like, what the hell? Like, why?
Yeah. The week before it was coming out. So, and then so the videos. Then what are you doing with the how do you create the videos? I'm guessing you've got like a little Go Cam or something.
No, I just use my phone.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not super tech savvy. I just use my phone. That's all I got. My phone, light stream. That's it.
But then again,
very low tech.
But then again, the phones, the cameras on those get so much better all the time. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's very intriguing seeing technology evolve from where it used to be. And I'm always enamored by that too. It's like, I remember having to go to CVS and get film developed.
Yeah.
Whereas now I can just take shot after shot after shot, no problem. I still miss getting film developed, but that was fun. God, it was so much fun. So expensive too. Damn.
When I went to college, I actually did develop my own film for
nice
at college when I was doing media studies.
Yeah.
And then we also, I mean, this is going. We also used to then. That was back in the day when video had to be, or film had to be edited with tape because you didn't have digital back then either. So when I was doing that, I was learning how to edit tape or edit film by using tapes instead, which was very different. And pen names. So Oreo, Brewer, and Immortal Beloved. What are those names about? Where did they come from?
Oreo is because I'm mixed, half and half. So if I go missing, I'll be on the half and half card.
Okay.
Or Oreo cookies if you want to find me faster. Yep. And my pen name, Immortal Beloved, that I came up with, when was this, 2024, so 18 years ago, 2006. Because I went through so many different names and I couldn't settle on that because I was like, if that works. And then I hate this, 18 years ago, and there was always that one dumbass person who would mess with me. Like, oh, you like film Immortal Beloved, don't you? I'm like, no, that movie.
Yep.
And I'm like, what? It's a classic. Like, I don't give about that movie. I watched it. I didn't care for it.
Yep.
And it stuck. And my ex-friend pointed out that my name or my pen name was strong yet feminine. Like, yeah, it's pretty much describes me. And I've rolled with it ever since.
But going back to something you've already said when you were talking about your writing, when you were explaining the descriptiveness, that reminds me of someone along the lines of like King, for instance, when he does his best writing, he's incredibly descriptive
Yeah.
a lot of the time, which I think helps because then as a reader, you are pulled into that world by the descriptiveness of it. You know
Yeah.
exactly where you are in that writing. So it reminds me of his writing, what you were saying.
Now, I will read comic books,
Yep.
but I won't read a physical book. I do audiobooks because I love narrators that really pull you in and they suck you into the world so well. My favorites over the years, because I'm born and raised on Star Wars audiobooks, so I've gone
Yep.
through all those. Anthony Heald, vastly underrated. I love him. I wish he would do more. Jonathan Davis. No, not the lead singer of Korn, as people would believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's easy to confuse those two, and it's Jonathan Davis of Korn's narrating Star Wars. It'd be funny though. Uh, Mark Thompson, absolute god tier narrator. Cannot go wrong with him. First 10 seconds of any audiobook he narrates, that opening, you cannot tell me you don't get goosebumps hearing that. Oh, I love it. Cynthia Holloway, I think is her last name. She narrated Laura K. Hamilton's Anita Blake series. Best one that I loved was Dance Macabre. I actually own that one. Great audiobook. Jim Dale for Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Love him. Absolutely love Jim Dale. Hearing him narrate Word of the Phoenix, I was so enthralled. I'm like, wow, this is good shit. Rob Lowe, another underrated narrator. Like some of the movies I've watched, there's ones that have narrators to them, and I'm like, why aren't you doing audiobooks? You have the voice for it.
Yeah.
So Rob Lowe's good.
Stephen Fry, he's good at narration if you know him.
Yeah, I know him. I've never heard any of his narration.
No, he's very good with the audiobooks.
Um,
Who else?
Yeah, because there was a big debate over Jim Dale versus Stephen Fry for Harry Potter. I'm like, Jim Dale.
Yeah.
I grew up with Jim Dale, so that's who I'm going to gravitate towards. It's who you hear first that resonates with you the most. And when I was hardcore writing a Star Wars fanfic, I always heard Mark Thompson narrating as I worked. So that was my back voice for writing out the scene. That helped a lot. Because when you hear an audiobook, you listen to it and it pulls you in and it unfolds the scene in your head perfectly. Now, it's not everybody's scene is going to be different. Some people can't even formulate a picture in their head when they're reading words. They just see words on the page.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's really sad. I'm like, you read a book, but you don't see the picture. No. I'm like, why? How? It's strange to me, but I get it. Some people have that ability. Some people don't. And one of the most surprising narrators that really caught me off guard was Ron Perlman. He did Guillermo del Toro's The Strain. Like, wow, that was interesting.
He's got an incredible voice, Ron Perlman.
Yeah, he really does. And there's so many voice talents out there that don't get recognized as much, and they really should, but they really don't.
Does that extend then to audio dramas as well with you?
Oh, let me see. The last audio drama I ever listened to, and this confused the hell out of me because I had a hard time forming a scene in my head, was that man? The hell was it? Oh, God. It was a late grind Batman audio drama. I can't remember the hell.
Okay.
It was a comic I read too. I think it might have been Nightfall, and I was reading it, and then I was like, oh, okay, it's just like a comic. And they jumped around so much, and I couldn't focus enough. And I was like, oh. this audiobook. It sucks. Ugh.
I liked the recent Batman Unburied. That was interesting from DC, where they had the late that cast included the late Lance Reddick.
Oh yeah, I love this. Oh, I miss him so much.
Same here.
I can't believe he was a Baltimore native. I never that.
Wow. Wow.
I never knew that.
So we've already looked at how do you get the items and your creative method, sort of to a degree, and the fan fiction question. What are the rules or the laws behind fan fiction? Do you know? Are you just allowed to do anything with fan fiction? Because I've never looked into writing any or putting any out myself.
Oh, fan fiction is so easy because so many people want can do it either way. You can either do it with what's out now or you can do your own thing. And there's so many tools out there that help you build your story properly. There's the base ones to get is definitely the RPG books. Those are so easy to read.
Yep.
The D&D manuals, especially D&D itself, everything is a clone of D&D. Nobody wants to admit that, but it's
Yep.
true. Without D&D, wouldn't have any popular fandom today. You really would. But yeah, the D&D manuals that I've covered, a lot of them are literally, here's how to write your own fanfic, here's how to write your own character up, here's how to make them unique, here's how to give them layers, make them interesting, give them traits, and you can go from there. And it applies to anything. If you're a massive fan of any fandom in particular and you want to write a story on that,
Yep.
go for it. It's not that hard. Just what you think and you read the source material, you go from where you want to go. It can be your own separate story or it can be right alongside what's currently. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares. It's your own thing. Me, my fanfic is more set alongside the use on ball war with Old Republic flashbacks.
Yeah.
And it's also got a lot of personal that I threw into it as well. Cause writing my whole fanfic helped me get through my CPTSD and my own personal issues and demons. And it helped me really confront them and problem solve them and also understand, accept, deal, and let them go. And throwing so many traits into characters from my own issues that I've grown up with and dealt with, it really helped. And so many people that inspired me along the way, mainly in high school, that I still cherish to this day, they don't know I wrote about that. None of them know anything about it. And it was always that one positive interaction with them. And I went from there and built their character off that interaction and gave that character so much depth, so many layers.
Yeah.
That I got lost in that. It's so much fun when you get lost in layers because you're like, wow, they're not only 3-dimensional, now they have 10 dimensions.
Yeah.
And writing out battle scenes took so much out of me because that was a process. Like the biggest one I wrote in my advance was 20 people, and I think it was 7 or 8 pages of fighting. And so my head was so drained after writing that because it was so many POVs to switch from.
Yep.
And getting lost in the POV game is so much fun. There's you don't want to stop, and it's more addictive than drugs, more addictive than alcohol, more addictive than sex, because if you have so many characters with so many personalities
Yep.
and so many arcs to work with. You don't want to let them go. You want to stay in that, but you're like, yeah, I have to progress the story. So you stop with them, go to the next set of characters. That's the big thing is that you have to, everybody preaches about how you got to build your characters. You have to give them traits and basically do a Venn diagram or a spider web or Charlie from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia with the whole billboard notes. That's basically my head. But the main thing that makes a fanfic stick out is world building.
Yep.
And if you don't know how to world build, then you're not ready to write. And you really have to think about world building because you have to figure out, is this going to be super detailed? Is it going to be a reflection of the world today? Is it going to be everything I know? Is it going to be heavily political? Is it going to be fantasy, sci-fi, or every other trope that's out there? What are you going to throw into your world? How is it going to be different from the others? How are you going to make it stand out and make a reader really, wow, I want to know more about this place. Let me know. Take me there. I want to go to this place and really enjoy it.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult because so many people will latch on to an easy deal and not really care about the details.
Yeah.
When they build their world, they just go with something basic. And I'm like, and that's not enough. That's why I get so mad about my book reviews because especially the Star Wars books that I've covered recently, because some of them, they don't cover everything. I'm like, this book sucks. You should just go to Wikipedia because it has everything
Yep.
that you could possibly want to know detail. And literally every fandom Wikipedia will have everything that the book won't have. And that's really frustrating. I'm like, I looked at Wikipedia and they have, last I looked, they have 180,000 articles. And I'm like, you have all that, but you keep putting out these books that
Yeah.
don't have everything.
Yeah.
Damn. It's just a rehash of what I already know. It's give me something fun. If you really want to do world building, right, you need to really get sucked into art books more and really invest in those because they will help you really expand your thought process and your mind. But if you're closed minded, you ain't gonna absorb. You're just like, "Oh, I know what I do. I know how to do this. I don't even tell." And there are some people who are so savvy with it, and it's amazing. And there's other ones who drag feet, and there's others who don't know anything. If you don't know how to world build or make characters,
Yep.
check your library. They usually have a writing class, or even the local colleges will have a free course. My college or here, they have community college. They have two writing classes. One is for how to write a story, and the other one is world building. But it's only two classes each. And I'm like, that's not enough time to teach world building and how to write a story. You need to do at least a year on.
Yeah. So you then in your longer form writing, you're writing. Let's see if I get this right. So you're writing from is it the third person from looking out
I,
onto what's going on, much like a
I
comic,
let's see, I go first to second to third,
right?
and then I jump around to narrating to third and back and forth. I pissed off my girlfriend with the way I write. I hate how you write. Because she
Okay.
doesn't like how I switch POV so much, and I don't label how I did it back then. I just went with the flow. The character says this, I'm writing that, and then it would just carry on. I had, no joke, I've had 3 pages typed of just conversation between characters. It was just such a great flow. And I didn't want to stop. I'm like, you guys got to shut the fuck up.
That's That's
But it's
fascinating because if that was transferred from that written page into a visual format, that's like one of these things, or almost like, yeah, you're looking from the perspective of the single person. It's almost like one of those films where you look at it from different perspectives, almost like
yeah,
the early Chris Nolan independent films that he was making, where he was changing perspective through the film.
yeah. Yeah, the best example of switching POV film is definitely Watchmen. That's
Yeah.
pretty much how I write. I like jumping around to characters because it's fun going from narrating them to their personal POV to how they feel and going from there and then their interactions and how they worked on those interactions and so on and so forth. It's so complicated to explain how I write, but that's
Yeah.
just how I do. I switch multiple POVs all the time. It's amazing.
Which, I mean, that is a really good example what you've just given, because I would say that that is the reason why, to my mind, me personally, I think that's the best of Snyder's work is
Yeah.
Watchmen, because he gets that absolutely perfect. It's supposed to be almost unsettling. That's what he's trying to get, and that's
Yeah.
why it works. Is because he gets exactly that right feel, and that's where I think that it worked the best for him as well.
Yeah, like he gets the comic book feel.
Mm.
And one of the things that I'm not a Snyder cultist, I love
Oh
his
yeah,
work. And everybody's go restore the Snyderverse. Well, then bring all his films together. And his best work is, for me, is Legend of the Guardians, the House of the Hill. I didn't even know he worked on that. That was
okay,
the funny part because I love that film. And I was like, this is so good. And it was so great for 2010. I'm like, who the hell did this? And it's
yeah,
Zack Snyder. He did a kids film? What?
wow,
How? And
yeah,
it's shocking because everybody's, oh, he's comic only. I'm like, no, he's not. He started out with zombies.
yeah,
And the way he does it, he gets the atmosphere, he gets the ambience, he gets the etherics, he gets the layout. And when he does CBM, it unfolds like a comic. And I love that. And I was so excited when he did Justice League. I was like, oh, it's perfect. And everybody's still vicious about it being too long. It doesn't make sense. There's no story, and shut it up. You don't get it. Go read a comic. And
yeah,
people put directors and stuff on a pedestal. And I'm like, don't do that. Never do that. You don't know these people. You really don't know them. Just because they liked something you said, they gave you a small interaction at some point, you have their autograph, you had a small conversation with them at a con, you share their stuff daily, doesn't mean they actually give it about you personally. They're a human being. They still have their flaws. You don't know their entire story. For all you know, they killer underneath all that. Just nice on the outside. Yeah.
sure,
Yeah.
sure. So, what advice would you give to people then, as creative advice, if they're wanting to start writing themselves or creating anything?
Just let yourself go. Honestly, like I get lost in my music while I'm writing, and it's a great flow. I know some people who can't even write music. I'm
Yeah.
like, how the hell do you write silence?
Hmm.
Like that's just weird. But it's right. So everybody has a different process. Me, I need music because I need the flow, and songs are important for dramatic scenes or action scenes or just casual conversational building the scene itself so you know what to expect. And sometimes a couple of scenes, like I'll jump into, yeah, everybody's here, they're doing this. And then I'll be like, what's the weather doing? And
Yeah.
like, ah, like I actually put up a fight scene in my trilogy. And I had to go back and I had to add in a little person that was part of the fight. Forgot. I was like, oh, and I was at the end of the fight, back 7 pages, right? All the stuff back in. Great. But if you want to start your own story, I definitely recommend checking out local colleges to see if they have writing courses that are free because you don't want to spend money. You can also go to the library first and foremost. Check out every D&D, every Star Wars, every Star Trek, every Babylon 5, every whatever. Man, it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle book too.
Yeah.
RPG book and source book. Check every one of those out and absorb the hell out of it because it will teach you how to write your own fanfic, do your own story,
World
how to
build.
build. Yeah, definitely world building, especially that. That's key to how to start your story up. That's the biggest thing. You have to know how to world book. It'll take you'll have to reread them books numerous times. There's even a new D&D book out that's a little pocket book that you can take with you places. And it literally teaches you world building, character building, outcomes, etc., how to even social skills as well. And the best thing about writing stories, you can take traits from your friends and throw them into characters that you make.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to tell your friends. You just listen to them and absorb. But if you don't know how to socialize, there's courses for that too. It's a simple thing of just asking for help. And some people don't know how to do that. I suffer. I know I have my vices where I don't ask for help at
Yeah.
all. And I know I need help, but I get it when I need it. And when you learn how to ask for help, world build, character build, and write everything down. Oh, that's number one. It started, write everything down, everything possible. No matter how stupid it sounds, it will be a future plot point or a spin-off for you to work with down the road. I learned that the hard way because I was like, oh, I'll remember all this stuff years later. And I had memory loss because of PTSD. And when I had COVID brain fog. So that wiped a lot of memories out too. So I write everything down, I timestamp it, and I don't forget. And it helps because I've learned that the plot points I write down end up being out of order. And I go back and look at them like, oh, that goes there, this goes here. And then I start making a more cohesive timeline. I'm like, okay, that works.
Yeah.
And explaining things goes a long way in your story too, because if you don't explain it, people will be like, they'll scratch their head like, what the hell is this? Another big thing that I actually had to do, and it was very, very tricky, was casting. Everybody has their fan casts.
Yeah.
Everybody on the planet has a fan cast. And for my fanfic, I had to really think because I couldn't just put everybody's names down that were inspired for each character. I had to look at everybody that I've watched and listened to over the years of who fits this character well, who's going to fit this, how are they going to work better. And that goes a long way because if somebody is struggling to visualize something, all they're going to see is a talking head. They're just going to be like, oh, this is just a blank head that's talking and has no face, no emotion, like CGI Luke and Mandalorian season 2. And write down your fan cast and keep that to the side. You're always going to be interchanging that as you go because you'll have your set people that you want. And then after a while, that doesn't really work. Like originally, Trent Drake and I had pegged down as one of the military commanders. I think he was in Stargate or something.
Yep.
I'd seen him in every movie for so long. I was like, yeah, he's a good fit for Trent. I like the way he looks. He's perfect. He's got the pre-cut and all that. And I went through multiple new Genesises and rebirths and meltdowns. And I looked at my list and I'm like, Idris Elba makes a better Trent.
Yes.
And I was like, that's perfect. And it fit. And I was like, yeah, that works. Because I like his swagger, his attitude, his voice, and that smile and just his stance. And I love that.
Yeah.
So that was my fan cast for Trent, and it worked well. And it's so important to have that, because if you have a new reader coming into your stuff, they're going to want to know what these people look like. And giving them fan cast actually helps, because then they're like, oh, I can look this person up. Oh, that's what they look like.
Yep.
And then they go back to the story and they're like, oh, okay, now I know who this person is. I know what they look like. I know what they're going to sound like too, because I watched their stuff numerous times. And you go from there. Or if you decide to switch it out and you're like, oh, I have to check this person out and see what they're like. And checking out that person's fan cast, you might also get into their filmography or discography if they're an artist, and whatever else they've done. I did that with Anna Kendrick, actually. I got hooked on her because I listened to her autobiography.
Yep.
And I was like, wow, she is amazing. And I wholesomely respect her for doing Twilight, but I hate that saga. But I like that it propelled her career, because if she hadn't done that movie, she'd still be living in a car.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that. It was like so sad. I was like, wow.
Mhm.
And it prompted me to watch her filmography. I still have to finish a couple films yet. But when I watched her stuff, I actually got hooked on the film a lot more. I was like, man, she's really funny and so adorable and hot. This movie is so much better. Like, wow, it's amazing.
I mean, that reminds me of, just to go on a tangent, that reminds me of thinking about the actor William Shatner during the 70s was living out of a camper van
Yeah.
in the 1970s. And you think, wow, he'd already gone through Star Trek, and now that's all. At that point, he wasn't looking like he was coming back. So he's living out in a, like I said, a camper van, and that puts a different slant on when you see him in Columbo, where you think, where I used to think, oh, William Shatner, I'm sure it's Star Trek, he must be well off, this, that, and the other. And then you think, oh God, no, because that's in the middle of that period when he was living in a camper van. He must have been living in there and doing these roles in like the Columbos and all these other shows of the 70s. It's amazing that you don't know these things that people are going through.
Yeah, like I find it so fascinating when I do my movie TV shows.
Yeah.
Because I love tracking careers during that time frame. Whoever it is, I like to see where the hell they were at.
Yeah.
And some of them were working on 2 or 3 films back to back during the one film. And I'm like,
yeah,
that is hella good work ethic.
Yeah. Michael J. Fox.
Yeah. What's another one? And the action stars, those are the ones I really like to check out their filmographies, because you see when they were at the height of their popularity, and then you see their roles dwindling down because they're getting older. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense, because you realize you hit your prime, you're still in your prime.
Yeah.
But you want to do smaller roles to protect your health. And I love that. It's good. And I love watching that, because it's fun to retrace their steps to where they would go to down the road or in the past, and seeing where they started.
Yeah.
And one of the main roles that really stood out to me, because I think I was watching Watch Mojo's top 10 on films and stuff. They brought up Adrian Brody, the pianist, and what he did he sold all his stuff, his car, his house, or it was his apartment, his townhouse or something, so so he'd understand what it was like to be poor. And I
Right.
was like, I was like, wow. And it showed. I was like, damn, I've never seen the movie, but seeing him on screen and knowing that's unreal. One of the more tragic stories that hit me was Jonathan Brandis.
Yes.
And he went
Yep.
he was in Neverending Story 2. And I was like, oh, cool. And then I remember from Sequest DSV,
Same.
because I love that series. That was
Yeah.
so good. The only thing is that was bad about it was that if they had made it more anthology based, it would have been better in
Yep.
terms of casting, because cast kept switching out. But his career skyrocketed after Sequest, and then it went down after a while, and then he took a break and he was going to come back in Hearts War. And then he was excited for Hearts War, and then it turned out it was a deleted scene. It got cut and it just broke him and he killed himself. It was, damn, that's so sad because he had so much more to offer.
What a waste.
And yeah, it's a real waste because you see all these stars that have done so much and you don't know how bad it's been for them. I watched Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV on HBO Max, and I was
Yeah.
blown away by it. I'm like, yeah, these kid stars don't, like nobody knows how bad it really is. And you find this out, and it's, wow, yeah, I don't like child stars that much. But you see how a lot of them were lightning bottle, and people don't understand that term. And they're like, you're not making sense. No, it makes sense. Listen, lightning in a bottle moment with a child actor is special.
Yeah.
You get them at that age, whatever it is, whether they're 5, whether they're 10 or 7 or whatever, you have them at that age where they're not even near puberty. They're young, they're fun, they're cool. And it's a role that they were chosen for out of thousands of other kids.
Yeah.
And it's part of their career. And you look back and it's, wow, they started out here and look where they're at today.
Yep.
And they're still popular. And it's amazing. I mean, I think about Drew Barrymore and how she turned out. Like, she was doing drugs, smoking at 7 or 8. And I'm like, damn. And she still turned out okay.
Yeah.
Others, not so much.
Yep. Yep. Macaulay Culkin, hell of a career as a kid. Nothing since.
Yeah, because a lot of them, they get tired of the limelight. I don't blame them. I really, truly don't, because you get sucked into that vortex of you need a role, you have to audition, and you do so many cold reads. I learned that from Big Show from WWE. Do so many reads and you grow yourself and own your talent. And sometimes you just realize I don't really all this money. Like Omri Katz from Hocus Pocus.
Yeah.
He disappeared off the face of the earth and then he resurfaced. He's resurfaced and he's a hairdresser.
Cool.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah.
And he looks great. I'm like, wow, what being in a popular Disney film that turned into a cult classic because it was released at the wrong time. And now you're a hairdresser. That's pretty fun. It's fascinating.
Is he the one that did that TV show?
Yeah, Erie, Indiana.
That's the one, Erie, Indiana. That was a good show.
I love that series. So underrated. Fun.
So,
Yeah.
are there any people out there, creatives, doing similar work to you that you want to shout out?
Writing wise, my girlfriend, being Max, she has her series, Book of the Isle. Her first book is Anna Hare,
Yep.
And now she's got her second book, Isle of Storms, coming out. My podcast friend, Jacked Up Review,
Yeah.
he's amazing. I love him. Ever since I met him and done guest spots on his podcast, it has been so much fun. I have
Yep. Hey, Cham.
on there that I'm like, Carly. Yeah, Carly.
Yeah.
Yeah, she worked on X-Files and whatnot. I was like, wow, this is so cool. And I learned a lot because I learned that any show or movie that takes place in a major city
Yeah.
is a pain in the ass because they have to work with traffic. They have to get in touch with law enforcement, fire and rescue, permits, all that. And I'm like, oh, that's a
Yeah. How the hell did they get the ability to film that sequence in Vanilla Sky at Times Square without anybody there?
I don't know about that. I know about 28 Days Later, though, with him walking around London.
Yeah.
At that time, because there's another lightning in the bottle moment filming, because they got extremely lucky that it was, I want to say it was like 4:30 in the morning and it was sunrise and there was no traffic. And they got really lucky that they were able to film that particular scene at that time, because usually traffic picks up around 5 apparently. And I'm like, oh, that's intriguing.
Yeah. London is a nightmare for that sort of thing.
I bet. I can only imagine, because you have so many places that are so popular, and time zones for me are a pain in the ass, but I'm used to it. That's right. Like when I talk to my girl, Zealand, I have to, because she's 15 hours ahead of me. So I'm like, that's great.
Wow.
Yeah. So when we talk, we'll talk all day and text back and forth when she's free.
Yep.
But it's really hard because when we get to vid chat, I'm talking to her at 3 a.m.
Yep.
And it's only 8 p.m. for her the next day. I'm like, it's hard, man. It's really hard with the time zone, but I'm used to it because I've adapted her. I had a friend out in actually around your area.
Okay.
And I lost her recently because she died of pancreatic cancer last week. She was so nice. One of my poet friends.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it was a bitch. I was like, really? Because it was so unexpected. Because I'm looking through my feed and then I see 2 people saying, "Oh, Ann has passed." I'm like, "What? How? Why? When? What?" So I got in touch with the one mutual friend, and she said she had been fighting pancreatic cancer the past couple of weeks and lost the fight. I'm like, not cancer. So tired of cancer.
Absolutely.
Man.
Anyway, thanks for speaking with me today.
No problem.
Thank you. So where can people find you and get hold of you if you want them to?
People can find me on YouTube, Oreo Brewer. They can find me on Twitter under SW the Draken Saga. You can find me on Facebook under Oreo Brewer. You can find me on Wattpad under Immortal Beloved 89. And that's about it.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Anyway, you can find Pods Like Us on any streaming platform. Just look for Pods Like Us. And on any socials, do the same there. We're on Patreon as well. And you can contact us through podslikeus@gmail.com. Anyway, thank you everyone for listening, and hope you listen again to another episode of Pods Like Us.